Notnerd Podcast, Episode 243, Cone of Silence.
Welcome to the Notnerd Podcast. I'm Nate Heath, and we're here to help you tech better. Here with me, as always, Mr. Dave Baylor.
Good day to you, my friend. It is always a pleasure to be on this program with you. I look forward to it. It's the highlight of my week.
I know. As I'm going through all the tech news throughout the week, and I'm like, oh, we get to talk about this, and some people will listen to us talk about it. What a great thing. What a great
Why are
thing.
those people, why are they so dumb? They're taking all their time sitting there wasting it listening to us. Is that what you're thinking?
No, they're learning so much. We have so much information to share with the world. And we have plenty today. There was all kinds of stuff that went through, and I even had to pare it down a little bit so we wouldn't have our first 6-hour episode.
This list is pretty long.
Yes, so let's get right into it. Our first piece of follow-up, I have some great news for listener Wes. We talked about the issue where he lost a Final Cut project last week. Well, he did find it. I knew it had to be there somewhere, and since he does a ton of video work, he has tons of project files. It had somehow gotten kind of merged or dragged into another file, but this did cause him. He just ordered and received, and I'm going to be helping him set up. He got a new Samsung T7 2 terabyte external hard drive, and we're getting him signed up on Backblaze so that he will have multiple copies of all his files, so it will not... it might happen again, but he'll have backups where he won't have to lose sleep over all the work he had done on that project. So, good news to Wes.
Shout out to those T5, T7 portable SSDs. They're beautiful. They feel nice. They have, they're just a perfect device.
Yeah.
They don't require external power.
No, and I think and the prices on the SSD stuff has come down so much. I think he got the T7, which is the higher end one. He got a 2 terabyte, and I want to say it was like $300. So, I mean, when this is your lifeblood, when this is your job, I mean, the company paid for the drive, but well worth it. And speaking of one backup is none backup, I did want to mention Google One, which we probably talked about last year when it released on Android. They've always had some backup stuff for Android phones and their Google Drive. Well, Google One is the kind of consumer version of Google Drive. And with Google and their naming stuff, I think half of the time it shows up as Google Drive anyways. But they have an app on Android that really helps you back up and manage your space on an Android phone. They're also releasing it for iOS probably this week. I checked as I was doing the show notes, and it wasn't available yet. But you'd be able to back up your contacts, photos, and other things. And it used to just be for their paid plans if you paid $1 or $2 a month. But now with they're expanding it to even like a free Google account, so you're 15 gigs of space. So if I see a single other person, especially somebody that listens to this podcast, that says, I lost all my contacts, message me your phone number again, you have zero excuse for this. Please pause the podcast. Heck, delete the rest of the podcast and go get backup set up on your phone, your computer, your tablet, whatever you have, so that I don't get in. I want to put that portion of my business, I want to completely eliminate it because people have good backups.
One backup is none backup. No backups is just foolish.
Yes, exactly.
There's got to be, I'm going to work on that. There's going to be a better phrase I can come up with. I was going to say stupid, but that means it's kind of a negative connotation. It's foolish is maybe
negligent.
Yeah.
Next story, we talked about this too. Google, Microsoft, and some other companies, they have extended kind of their work from home orders. Again, many of their employees can very easily work from home. Friend of the show, Mike, works for one of these companies. I don't know if I'm supposed to mention it, but he's a contract worker, and they're just saying, hey,
we'll call it Google Soft.
Yes, Google Soft does on flicks.
Google Soft does on, exactly.
But so I think some of them are going to reevaluate sometime next year and just see what the next step is. But many of those companies work where they can, and even other friends that I've talked to that work for companies, there's really no rush to get back into an office at this point, and that they're just making do for now. And for some people that works great. For others, they miss the water cooler talk and being able to hang out away from their homes, depending on how many children you have. But it's a developing story on the whole work from home in general. But the big tech companies, because they get a lot of focus, have been making those announcements.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird place because big tech companies have the capability and the technology to allow their workers, but they also have thousands and thousands and thousands of workers.
Yes.
Microsoft, Google, Facebook, all the ones we mentioned, just thousands of people, and not everybody can work from home.
Yeah.
They've got it worked out. That's their problem to worry about, I guess.
Yes. And speaking of implications of COVID-19, we have talked since probably episode 1 of the podcast, one of these years we were going to get to CES. Well, this year we could make it much easier to go to CES because it's going to be online only in 2021. So in January, they're going to do a completely online format. They're going to have, ways for vendors to meet with press and media and try to connect all these people and do presentations and everything. So it'll be much different, but a lot of progress has been made in these online events. Apple and all the big companies have tried this stuff out, so it's only going to get better. But yeah, so we won't be going to Vegas for CES in January this year, Dave.
Now, is it free for people to attend, or do you still have to pay? Do we know anything about that?
That is a good question because, yes, Apple for Worldwide Developers Conference, they made all of the content available for free. I think you still had to be a developer to get into some of the, chat sessions or kind of, that side of things. Not just anybody could do that, but I'm guessing they will make a lot of the content free that they can. And when I looked at applying last year, you kind of had to be a media or press person to kind of get approved to even go. I know that's changed over the years since it is kind of an industry event, but we'll see if maybe because it would be fun to be able to find some products you like and kind of go on and get a virtual experience of their booth or whatever they're going to do for those presentations.
And maybe we could get some interviews and stuff and write some articles and
be
part of the press. That'd be kind of fun.
Yes. One of these days. The big Twitter hack. So it looks like 3 people have been arrested with that. One of them being a 17-year-old teen from Florida that sounds like he might have kind of been the mastermind that just got into some of this hacking stuff. So there's more information coming out on that. But I did see in one of the articles that I looked at that it said, Twitter has cracked down on how many people have access to this master key tool thing. It's like, hopefully that's the case.
Yeah, the place where I work, they've had so many employees over the years, and people have been given keys and all this stuff. And I think there's probably 200 master keys out there just floating around. It costs so much money to change the locks, and so it's like,
it's on somebody's keychain, and they're just like, what is this key? I don't know, and just sits there.
Or they lost it and then got a replacement, and then when they quit, they gave back the replacement, but then they found the rich. I mean, they're just all over the place. So
true.
Digital keys are even worse because they can be copied so much easier.
Yes,
and spread around.
One of our other recent security and privacy stories, Garmin, that big ransomware attack they have paid the ransom. So a couple $1 million they had to pay that. They did say that they didn't think any personal data was stolen in the ransomware attack, but they just paid it to be able to get their systems back up.
So help me understand. They pay the person, and so they know who the person is that they're paying, allegedly. Why can't the cops or the feds or whoever go in and just get these guys? And I understand they're probably in other countries potentially, but
and they pay it via Bitcoin, so that makes it a little harder. But even with Bitcoin now, I mean, it seems like there's ways to track that stuff down. So would be interesting. Maybe that's, the old marked bills and the bank heist. Maybe them paying this will allow authorities to try to track down the perpetrators.
I just know if I were a multi-billion-dollar company and I had to pay a couple $1,000,000, I might take double that and use some of my resources to put the ban hammer down on these people, so to speak.
No doubt. Well, in some happier news, astronauts splashed down after the joint NASA SpaceX Falcon mission. They were up at the International Space Station for, a couple weeks, a month, and now they have come back to Earth.
Yeah, Bob and Doug. Not Mackenzie, but the astronauts. Don't confuse them with the Great White North guys.
Take off,
Yeah, I turned it on. We were watching YouTube yesterday on our TV out front, and I turned off the program, and there, one of the highlighted live little tiles was the splashdown. And so I missed the re-entry, but I did see them doing the recovery. If only there were a way to know in advance when these things were happening.
Yeah.
I just need to pay attention more.
Yeah. I just caught some clips of it as well, but it's pretty amazing what they were able to do, and they splashed down and landed in the middle of the ocean, and all seems to be good. So we will probably be seeing more of this in the near future.
Yeah, how exciting.
You know what else is exciting? Dave's Pro Tip of the Week.
Well, this week I have to give a shout out to our trusted friend and confidant, Todd, listener Todd. I know we've talked about this before, but on our Facebook forums, and I was there the other day and came across this conversation. He says, have you guys ever covered scanning with the Notes application on your phone or iPad? And we have talked about it. I tried to look to see if we had done an official tip of the week. I couldn't find anything. I think that we have, but I didn't want to put in the time and effort. So I thought we would cover this again because especially with the stay-at-home pandemic, everything, people are trying to find ways to work smarter from home. And I think we've mentioned before in previous episodes, you don't have your copy machine here at home. You don't have your big printer. So you have to find ways. And you shouldn't have to look too much further than your Notes application if you're an iOS user. I also, and we'll walk through that real quick of how to make this thing work, but a shout out to my buddies ScanBot and Evernote Scannable. I believe these are available on Android as well. At least the Evernote one is. There are many scanning apps out there. You can pay money, you can use them for free with ads or limited capability or whatever, but find one that you like, put it on your phone or other device, and just keep it around, and you'll be surprised how handy it comes. And at various times you're buying a car or a home or signing documents or whatever, having a pocket scanner is great.
It's amazing.
So quickly, for those of you with iOS devices, open up your Notes application and you can follow along at home. What you'll need to do is just click the new note by clicking the square with a little pencil icon, and you've got a new note. Along the bottom of the text field area, there are some little icons. And the one that we're interested in is the camera looking icon. So you click the camera and it brings up a pop-up menu. And you can either choose a photo or video from your camera roll, which makes sense. You can take a live photo or video, but there's a third option, and that is scan documents. And when you click scan documents, it brings you into a new interface. And using Apple's wonderful augmented reality surface detection technology, you can move your item around your desk and it will find rectangular square type items, and it will just automatically highlight and scan those things, or you can click the camera button to do it manually. When you're satisfied with your scans, you can click save and they show up in your document window. But fear not, if something is a bit out of skew or if the color doesn't work right, no fear, just tap right back into the document and you can re-edit and edit the corner points of these documents, whether they're black and white or grayscale or photo or high contrast, whatever. You can rotate your documents, you can delete them, and you can even add new pages to your previous scans. So let's say you were doing a 5-page PDF that you wanted to make. You scan page 1, scan 2, and then you hit done, and you're like, oh no, I didn't do pages 3, 4, and 5. How's this going to work? Well, you just go back into the document, you click the plus button, add the other pages, make sure everything is perfect. From that window, that edit window, you can also use the share sheet functionality to share just the PDF portion that you made to another application. Let's say you want to email it, or let's say you want to text it to a friend, or you just want to save it in your files. It doesn't have to live inside the note. The note is basically just the mechanism that you're using to create the scanned document. So Nate, how did I do explaining that? Are there any other points that you could give us to make this a little simpler?
No, I think that's pretty good. I am constantly amazed at how poorly people understand scanning things, or, document transfer and all of this stuff. And I think it is so key to be able to, because you can just take a picture of it with the photos and send that to somebody, but the extra tools that are built in on this, where it just makes it look so much cleaner, it's going to look so much more professional. It's like the trimming the videos that we talked about on that the last episode. It just gives it that extra professionalism,
polish.
Especially if you are doing something, for a client or customer, or, buying a house like you were talking about, having those documents just scanned correctly so they're saved as a PDF. And please, people, try this out. Do it as often as you can. Practice a little bit so that when you need it, you know how to use it and you can do it quickly.
And as a bonus content here, a pro tip, if you will, if you're in a gallery or at a store or someone's house and you're like, I really want to take a picture of that artwork. Now, keep in mind that some things are copywritten, and I wouldn't go to a store where they're selling a painting and then try to do a photo, a perfect photo that you're going to print off at home or something like that. So be aware of that. But let's say you're at here's a classic example. You're over at your cousin's house. Your cousin has a framed picture of grandma and grandpa, and you're like, I don't have that picture. I would love to have a copy of that picture. Well, you may want to take a photograph of that, but guess what? There's glass and it's all glary, and half the picture is washed out. Take your scanner app or your notes application, move to the side a couple degrees so that there's no glare, and then take the picture with the scanner app, where you can adjust the corner points. And when you click done, it resizes and reshapes and reconfigures the image so that it looks like you just took it straight on.
Yeah.
And so even if you're not using it for scanning, for taking pictures of pictures, it's a really good tool. And there are some dedicated tools for this.
Yeah.
Google makes some. We've talked about them in the past. But the scanner app does a completely credible job in taking pictures of pictures and skewing them to the right orientation so it looks like you're straight on, while at the same time avoiding reflections or glare. So I can talk more. I could talk hours on this. I spent so much time practicing doing these things because I'm into photography and like to do things like this.
Yeah.
But if you have questions at home, like Todd, who wanted to know whether we had talked about things like this before, just let us know on Facebook or give us a call or shoot us an email.
Yes. No, that is a very useful tip. Thank you. Well, on to our takes of the week. The big event of the week was the congressional hearing with Jeff Bezos of Amazon, Tim Cook of Apple, Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook, and Satya Nadella of Google. Were all there via WebEx, which is like Zoom. I guess they decided to use Cisco's WebEx for it, but it went on for 6 hours. Now, Dave, did you watch this?
I am glad we're talking about this because I am completely outside the loop. I tried to read a couple articles. I tried to find out what was going on, and I just got steamrolled with other things going on. So I don't really know what the outcome was. I'm assuming there was the jokey person from the panel who asked how do they hook up their internet. I'm assuming that all of the industry CEOs had all of their talking points down pat, and we probably walked away from this hearing with no new information and nothing being done. Am I correct in my assessment?
Yep. On to the next story. No, yeah, it was. So it was regarding antitrust, and there's been kind of this growing thing that we've talked about some about. Are these companies too big? Do they have too much power? And it seemed like a lot of the focus ended up on Amazon and Google. Amazon just with their shopping dominance, and Tim Cook, Apple, got the least amount of questions, and he had his answers. And there was one congressperson, that
I
think that's what that he looked like the grandpa, and he said, Mark Zuckerberg, why did you ban Donald Trump Jr.'s account for sharing a video? And Zuckerberg says, well, that was actually Twitter, so you would have to ask them. And so just a lot of this, there's a lot of grandstanding. Each person on the panel gets 5 minutes to ask their questions. And yeah, these CEOs aren't going to go, oh, you caught us, we need to be broken up tomorrow. Great question.
Yeah, you're right.
I didn't watch too much of this one. I actually, while I was doing some work, had the Attorney General Barr one on from the day before, so I could not do 2 days in a row of congressional hearings. It is, it doesn't really get anywhere.
It's a little telling that Microsoft was not on this panel.
Yeah.
But they have such little power in the marketplace now. And so it's kind of a slap in the face, I think, that they weren't invited because they're not seen as a threat.
Yeah.
But remember back in the 90s when there was this
they went through a lot of it in the 90s. So maybe that's why. Maybe they already got theirs, just them. And so now these other 4 are getting it. But it was now. They've been doing, a 6-month investigation. This kind of is just the first show, and, get your political points across and ask them these questions. And there was a ton of information when I was reading through the news over the weekend about, there's all this discovery in these email chains, and, that CEOs and Apple talking about their app store rates and all of these things, and just how it could be anti-competitive. So it's just kind of hits the pretty picture around a big investigation, or just kind of the pomp and circumstance of, what's actually going on in this antitrust stuff. But it did kind of look that, Amazon and Google kind of got the brunt of it, Facebook some, and then Tim Cook, he kind of skated through it, because really antitrust stuff, they don't have a lot of the main talking points of being a monopoly or unfair business practice.
The App Store would be the biggest thing.
Yes, and
point of contention.
So there was some talk about that, the fact that you have to go through Apple's App Store. But yeah, so I do not recommend going and watching it unless you want 6 hours of guys on webcams not really answering questions, and our elected leaders having no clue how technology works.
Right.
But at the same time, I think maybe even within a couple days of each other, the second quarter of the year ended at the end of June, and so a bunch of quarterly reports came out, and most of these companies did pretty good that were involved in this. Apple, I'll link to Jason Snell's amazing charts that he does. They had a record quarter on Mac sales, which might tie into our earlier story of working from home, where people were doing that. But they had an amazing quarter. I think Alphabet, which is Google's parent company, they were maybe down like 2% year over year, but both Facebook and Amazon were looking very good as well. So even with the antitrust rumors, they're still selling plenty of products, and that's not going to change in the near future. But there was a couple interesting things out of their investor call that they do after they release the numbers, and they are going to do a 4-to-1 stock split, where they will take it where it's around $400 a share now, but it'll go down to $100, which is a total non-issue for me and you, Dave, because we use Stash App, where you can buy partial shares. So I can buy $5 worth of Apple stock, and there's a lot more services doing that now. But at $400 a share, I never felt like I could buy a share. But now that it's I can buy whatever I want. I think I buy like $20 worth of Apple stock every week, which is done very well for me, which their stock is I was going to say insanely high. Their stock is very high now, and they are actually now the world's most valuable company. They were the world's most valuable public company, kind of trading off with Amazon and Microsoft, I think, for a while. But with their stock price right now, they're worth like $1.8 trillion.
Yeah. And they did this stock split a few years ago as well.
Yeah.
And it was up in the 400 range, and they cut it in half. And so the stocks went down to like 200 per share. But this 4-in-1 stock split is interesting.
Yeah.
But yes, the most valuable trillions. Are you kidding me? Trillion. I mean,
jump into
holy cow.
I mean, they're getting close to 2 trillion. So the other company, and I was a little misinformed on this, I guess, Saudi Aramco, which had been the most valuable publicly listed company since its market debut last year, now trails at 1.76 trillion, below Apple's 1.84 trillion. I think that was last Friday. But yeah, that's and I'm not familiar with Saudi Aramco. I do not have any of their stock. I'm guessing with the name, I'm going to be very judgmental and say that has to do with the oil industry, driving real-world progress through engineering, and it does look like they are an energy company, so not just oil. But gotcha. Yeah, so that's Apple. They're doing well, and stock price is up. Now, they did announce also in that call that the new iPhones this fall are going to be late.
Bummer.
Yes, they usually show up mid-September, and I believe they said that they might be a few weeks late. So we're probably looking at mid-October is when they'll be released, just with everything going on that they have had some delays, as have most businesses in one way or another. We'll see those a little late, which is a bummer, because I'm looking forward to using the Apple Upgrade program to get the latest and greatest, and I have been talking to some other people that their phones are getting a little older, and I believe Dave, you're thinking about upgrading one way or another, either the new phone or last year's model, or
right. Yeah, I still am. I keep trying to convince my wife that this is a move we need to make, even though our daughter's going to be headed to college this fall, and
yes.
We're not exactly sure how we're going to pay for all of it, one day at a time. So $1,000 phone is not something that she's real keen on at this point. However, this delay just gives me more time to save money to buy the phone. So
and they do have the no interest financing now too that you can do. There's a lot of options there, but it gives you a little more time to take some more cans back and have some more money in your bank account by the time they come out. So I'm guessing we might have another story or on that before they are released, since we talk a lot about iPhones. Surprise, surprise, and I will remind people that we are the most nonpartisan tech podcast on the internet, but I believe it was Friday, there was a Trump tweet that caused an uproar. That never happens. But he had said that he was going to something to the effect of ban TikTok in the United States, which we've been talking about. But then over the weekend, rumors started coming out that Microsoft had been in talks to purchase TikTok, like the U.S. portion, to get it away from ByteDance, which is a Chinese company, and all the concerns there. And then I saw something just before we started recording that I believe Microsoft has 45 days to get a deal done to make this happen. So Trump did not shut down TikTok, much to the relief of many a teenager and more throughout the U.S. But so it looks like Microsoft, and I was thinking about it with Microsoft, they purchased Minecraft, which is huge with the youngs. This isn't completely out of the realm for Microsoft to try to buy a company like TikTok.
Well, they recently purchased LinkedIn, and I say recently, it's
100 years.
It's been like 7 years or whatever. But they bought LinkedIn, which is a social network.
Yeah, that's true.
We forget that LinkedIn is one of the larger social networks. And so TikTok, they have some experience with incorporating these other brands, like you said, and actually being pretty good stewards of them.
Yeah.
We were talking via Facebook or text message, I can't remember, to listener and buddy Elliot in Australia, and he was inquiring about Microsoft's Outlook app for iOS, and I'd mentioned that Microsoft had purchased this application named Acompli and rebranded it as Outlook. And so it's virtually the same application. They actually made it a little bit better and just rebranded it. So they have a history of being pretty good stewards of the properties that they purchase.
Yeah.
So maybe they'll get TikTok and improve it.
Yes. Yes, indeed. There was an announcement this morning. We're recording on Monday, August 3rd, and I had seen the rumors and glad that we were recording today. Google announced their Pixel 4a phone, as well as kind of pre-announced the 4a 5G and the Pixel 5. So there was some delays.
Now I don't.
Now you don't need the iPhone.
Now I don't have to wait on Apple.
Yeah,
I've got this.
Yeah, so the Pixel 3a, which came out, kind of halfway through the year last year from Google, which I actually have one of. It's a pretty good little phone. And they were set to announce one earlier this year, had some delays, and so they announced it today, but they also let people know that they would have some other ones coming sometime this fall, and both of those would have 5G in them, which did not cause coronavirus. I will remind you of that. But from reading through the article, it looks like the carriers are really pushing the 5G stuff, and they're really wanting 5G phones to kind of tout their 5G networks. So they're going to have those phones. But back to the one that will actually be available this month, August 20th, the Pixel 4a comes in at $349, which is $50 cheaper than the iPhone SE, but it also has 128 gig storage, so it's double the storage of the iPhone SE. So to get the same one, it's $100 cheaper for the same amount of storage, and it's got pretty much the same camera as it did last year. The processor, it looks like it's a $350 phone. Now, the advantages, Google does very well with the camera. It does have a headphone jack if you're a headphone jack aficionado, and it's just a plain Android. It doesn't have all the fluff that you get from these other companies. So yeah, if you're looking for a budget Android phone at the moment, I would probably say that this is going to be one that you're going to want to look at.
Yeah, if I were to ever buy an Android phone, I would just get it straight from Google, because there's none of this other carrier or manufacturer garbage installed on top of it. Now, a lot of people like Samsung and what they do with the software, but for me, I just want to be an Android purist, and if I were to get one of these, Pixel would be the way I would go.
Yes, and I will say this too, if you are looking for one and don't need one today, most Android phones, the prices, you can get some good deals pretty soon after they release. After they get the initial suckers to pay their full price, then through your carrier or whatever, you can get quite the deal. I think that's why I ended up getting mine. I signed up for the Google Fi and got some credits and this and that and the other thing. But yeah, so the Pixel 4a will be coming later this month, and then probably around the same time as the new iPhones, they will have the Pixel 5, which is kind of their flagship phone, and a 4a that has the 5G, which will be more expensive. I think that one might be that'll come in at $500, so an extra $150 just for the 5G, but there's rumors it might be bigger, might have a better camera.
And that price will come down after it comes out, like you mentioned.
Yes, and I don't think that, especially with where 5G networks are at now, that you need to have that is not a reason to upgrade in my book, because the chips are only going to get better and the coverage is going to get better. But if you're someone that keeps your phone for 3 or 4 years, it might be worth looking into investing in 5G this year, because over the next couple of years, I think we're going to see a really big push for that from the carriers.
Yep, I agree.
This last story, for those of you that have children and spend a lot of time in the YouTube Kids app, which we do. The new king of kids TV gets 7 billion views a month on YouTube. Yes, that was billion with a B. Moonbug, everybody's favorite YouTube network, Moonbug is acquiring CoComelon and the much famed Blippi to create a YouTube network with 235 million subscribers.
Now, you may have mentioned Blippi in the past.
Yes.
I'm vaguely remembering it, but I don't recognize any of this stuff.
I'm
on YouTube all the time.
No.
Where's this stuff hiding?
Your algorithm protects you from the madness of the kids' videos. So we see it obviously in the YouTube Kids app. Blippi, he's quite the character. It's a guy, I think he's in his 20s or 30s. I've actually read some stories about him, but he just, will go to play parks and talk about stuff, and he just really wears a bow tie and orange glasses and a silly hat, and but he gets tons of views, and kids know him. And Moonbug, I had not heard of them. I had seen CoComelon before, but yes, unless you have kids, please stay away. There is no reason to do this. Apparently, Moonbug owns Little Baby Bum, which makes videos set to nursery rhymes. I'm sure I've seen those. A lot of the time we're not paying attention to what video it is. Isla will just say, "You have to watch this video, Daddy." But yeah, so that's a big move. They didn't release any details on how much they're paying to acquire these other channels, but bringing them into a big network so that they can make money, and I'm sure branch out. There's Blippi toys and stuff, everything now. So,
well, this just goes to show you the power of YouTube. And so these people have gained 235 million subscribers, and they've built a property. Now, YouTube could just pull the carpet out from under them at any time. They could ban them, or they could do whatever. But what I think the power here is of the platform is this company, if they wanted to, could make their own app. They could make their own streaming app. And I bet you most of those 235 million subscribers would simply download the app and cut YouTube completely out of the equation. Yeah. So I wonder how long it is before they have their own network, like the NBC or ABC app. There's a Moonbug entertainment app where you can watch Blippi and all the wonderful stuff. So we'll see if that prediction comes true.
That is a good insight to it. Well, our security and privacy stories of the week, there's a report that should be no surprise to anyone that many of the election officials are vulnerable to email attacks, report shows. So a company did a big cybersecurity vendor, Area 1 Security, tracked more than 12,000 local officials and determined that over 1,600 used free or non-standard email software that often lacks the configuration and management protection found with the large cloud service providers. So, all these smaller election offices and everything, they're using like a free AOL email account to do all the election stuff, and
or worst, it's their name at Comcast.net, which is, I suppose, fine, but then they move down the street and they throw that away and get a new one from Frontier.com or whatever. There's so much advantage to having like a Gmail account with all the spam filtering and all the advanced technology they have to keep users safe.
Yes,
and even so it must be one of these local telco type emails.
Well, and even worse, to one up ya, Area 1 found that officials in 6 small jurisdictions in Michigan, Missouri, Maine, and New Hampshire, for example, were using a buggy version of a free software product called XM, which had been linked to online attacks conducted by the Russian intelligence service known as the GRU. So this is a software.
XM.
I don't know. They must have a good marketing department. So this is known to be used by Russian intelligence in its buggy software, but these jurisdictions are still using it because they don't pay attention or know any better. So, I will refer you back to our disclaimer on nonpartisan, but we do have a major election coming up in a few months here in the United States, and having any security vulnerabilities is not what we want as part of our election. We would like it to be as safe as possible. And so these, hopefully because of this report, that they will be letting some of these jurisdictions know that maybe they need to upgrade to something a little better.
They need to tech better, that's for sure.
Yes. Yes, they do. They need to be listening to our podcast. Maybe that's who we need to be advertising towards, is small election offices. Another story, the Vatican was said to be hacked from China. And this was shortly before the Vatican was set to have some talks with Beijing and working some things out between the two of them. And it looks like it was maybe a phishing attempt or something. They sent an email in and, had a bad link on it. And so this is... it says, this series of intrusions began in early May. One attack was hidden inside a document that appeared to be a legitimate letter from the Vatican to whoever Javier Corona Herrera, the chaplain who heads the study mission in Hong Kong. So, once again, not even the Vatican is safe from these cyber attacks, especially when they're dealing with China.
Hide your children, hide your wives.
Yes, indeed. Well, our bonus odd take of the week. This is a fun little one, Dave, that you found. We all have our Echo Dots because they put them in cereal boxes, I think, at this point.
They're so cheap. Yeah.
Yeah, but 9 to 5 Toys, which is a, kind of a deal site, they had a link on a deal for a Baby Yoda Echo Dot stand from OtterBox that they had just released. So, yes. Did you purchase one?
It's a little creepy. No, I did not. It's a little creepy. It's basically like a bust or the head of Baby Yoda. And instead of having a face and a skull, you just put the Echo Dot in that space. So it's kind of neat, and you kind of get a reminiscent idea of this is Baby Yoda's head or whatever. But it's like Baby Yoda with a weird squashed helmet with a blue light on it. Like it doesn't, his ears are green, but the dot in the picture is white. I don't know. I just thought it was bizarre more than anything.
Yeah, especially from somebody like OtterBox, who is they have made great iPhone cases. They were one of the first, I believe, the really strong cases. But so what? I forget what they're charging for this thing. $24.95 over at Amazon.
I bet they sell out of them too.
Oh yeah. People love their Baby Yoda. There is no doubt about that. There was another product that I saw this week that I don't even want to link to, and I wasn't going to talk about. It's like a sonic voice blocker for your Alexa, where it's like this dome thing you put over it and it emits some sound so that your Alexa can't listen. And it was like a Kickstarter project.
Why do you have it?
Why do you have it, and why do you not unplug it instead of buying a device to block the sound? So that was so not news, I wasn't even going to bring it up, but some vaguely related to the Baby Yoda.
You go over to the little bell glass and you lift it up and ask it what you need, and then you put it back down over the top.
Yeah. Wow. It was reminds me of the Cone of Silence from Get Smart back in the day. That was a great old TV show. Well, you know what else is great? Our picks of the week.
Nate, you talked to me earlier today, and you said, let's go ahead and do our repicks. Revisit some of the older picks that we have that we still use and love to this very day. And I couldn't help but think of my wonderful, reliable Anchor product, the Power Core Fusion portable charger with 5,000 milliamp hours with dual USB wall charger and foldable plug.
Oh, you love
and
that
Power
foldable
IQ.
plug.
Yeah, it's got everything you need. You can probably hear me do it there. That's the foldable plug.
Oh, wow.
So describe this. This is a palm-sized battery charger for your mobile devices. It's got 2 USB ports. It's got 1 micro USB port to charge it with, but you don't even have to who wants to slum it with an external charger and a cable? You just fold out the prongs and plug it directly in the wall. And someone might say, well, that's not a big deal. I see those at Walmart all the time where it has the prongs. But it's even better when you plug it into the wall and then plug your device directly into the USB port. It turns into a wall charger.
It's nice.
The device is no longer getting power from the brick. It's getting it directly from the AC unit in your wall. AC unit, not to be confused with air conditioner.
Yes.
Your AC power plug.
Yes.
So maybe I'm not explaining well, but if it's not plugged into the wall, it's on battery power.
Yeah.
When you plug it into the wall to either charge it or connect it to another device, it becomes just a standard power adapter for your device. You're getting full charge when it's plugged into AC power. You're getting fast charge. You're not depleting the internal battery on the unit. So it's the best of both worlds.
Yes.
You don't have to bring a power plug with you for your iPad or a battery. It's both in one. It's amazing.
Yes.
And these things cost about $30.
Wow.
It's incredible.
Very nice. Yeah, that is a good, and it's a good size too, because you have the little like lipstick ones that will charge your battery about 2%, and then you have like the car battery size ones that are way too big. So it's right in the middle. And if you're traveling, to be able to have both those features, if you can find an outlet, or if you can't, you can get yourself some power. So that is a good one. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Well, my pick of the week was actually one of your picks, Dave. And way back on episode 67, titled 60-Second Skip, you talked about Facebook Marketplace and how you had found an iPhone on there. And I was surprised that it was your pick, not mine, because of your disdain for Facebook in general. But I had a couple experiences with Facebook Marketplace recently. My wife actually uses it all the time, as well as some of the free groups or trade groups on Facebook. And it's really been a great thing, especially with Isla getting kid clothes and everything. But Facebook Marketplace, my first experience, I actually kind of sold some stuff for a neighbor. He had some barbecues that he had gotten, brand new in the box, Weber grills, and he was like, I just don't want to deal with it. Where would you even sell things these days? And I go, you know what? I haven't used Facebook Marketplace in a long time. Why don't you sell them to me? I'll make a little profit and sell them for you. Listed them on there, had a great experience. A couple guys contacted me. They came and picked them up. They paid me with Venmo or whatever, PayPal. However, you do that stuff. They actually have some stuff built into Marketplace where you can, say if they were a good person to work with. And you can even see since it's Facebook, if you have any connections with this person, it's a much better level than like Craigslist, which is really, in my opinion, gone downhill over the years. And everybody's on Facebook already anyways. Well, my second experience, speaking of iPhones, another one of my neighbors said, hey, I've got this brand new iPhone XS Max. I want to sell it. Where would I sell it at? And I was like, well, you could do Facebook Marketplace, or if you tried like Gazelle or one of those services, you're going to get way lower. He was kind of trying to get top dollar for it. So I said, you know what? I'll sell it for you. Give me a little cut. And I just wanted the experience of, in 2020, selling an iPhone on Facebook Marketplace. And so I originally had it listed, I think, at $700, which kind of looked to be on the high end, but figure you start high. Immediately getting like the post, hey, I'll give you $450 for it. And I'm like, so I had to wade through a lot of that. I did get one of the messages, because they all come in through Facebook Messenger. It's like, I had it listed at $700. I will give you $775. I will PayPal you the money, and then you ship it to me in North Carolina. And I want to pay top dollar for this. And I'm like, scam. So these higher ticket items, you got to be a little more careful. I did get a lot of low balls. I ended up selling it for $600. Met up with a guy. It was a great experience. He actually had his son with him, and his son knew what he was doing. He turned it on, put his SIM card on it to make sure it was unlocked, and then everything was working. Paid me cash, and we were done with that. So kind of a, hey, check out Facebook Marketplace, but also the holistic costs might not work out for the hassle. It didn't take me a ton of time to sell the iPhone, but it was just dealing with a lot of messages in, people just really trying to lowball. And it's like, come on now, what are you doing here?
Yeah, you make it up in volume. If you do sell a lot of stuff on Facebook Marketplace, you'll probably come out ahead.
Yeah.
But it's hit and miss if you just do it randomly. Sometimes the experience is great. Sometimes it's not so great.
Yes. Yeah.
I forgot to mention on my pick that it was from episode 161, Merriam-Webster.
Oh, man.
I just thought the title was so good. I just wanted to throw that in
bring
there.
that up. The show titles are so good. But yeah, Facebook Marketplace, I would say you're going to get more money than just shipping the phone off to a service where they're going to pay it's the least hassle, but they're going to pay you some amount. But you do have to think about the holistic cost being worth it. So our Amazon purchase of the week, we love it when you use our affiliate codes. We get a little kickback, and I can anonymously see what you've been purchasing. This week we have the Wow-Mazing Giant Bubble Wands Kit 3-piece set. Includes wand, big bubble concentrate, and tips and trick booklet. Outdoor toy for kids, boys, girls.
I just bought one of these at Walmart. I could have bought it on Amazon.
Yeah, what were you thinking?
I am teasing.
You guys aren't doing
like
a lot
wonderful.
Oh, and part of the title got cut off. Bubbles Made in the USA kit. I did not get that on there. So just as you're calculating your price. So this is we love bubbles around our house. We haven't done, this is one of the large bubble wands where it looks like it pulls out and it's got the little rope on it so you can do super bubbles. I'll send you a picture over, Dave. It does have
gigantic
4.5 stars on 2,200 ratings. So this is a real nice little seller on there. It's summertime here in the Northern Hemisphere, so a lot of people are trying to get outdoors and have some fun. Dave, what would you pay?
It's so hard to tell with this type of stuff, but a number, I'm just going to say the first number that popped in my head.
Hold on, I've got to give you a little more information here. At the top of the product description, it says, make the biggest, longest, and most ginormous bubbles ever with our Wow-Mazing kit. So you didn't know that about the biggest, longest, and most ginormous bubbles ever.
And I thought you were going to mention that it has the Mom's Choice Award honoring excellence there at the bottom.
Yes.
What is that? It's just a thing they put on there.
Made up award. They found it on Google image search.
Well, that makes me want to, what you just said makes me want to say it costs more, but I'm going to stick firm with my original price of $8.99. How did I do?
You should have bumped it up. $14.95 Prime free 1-day shipping.
It's that Mom's Choice Award that really seals the deal there.
Yeah, apparently.
Well, my picture, all I really see is a girl holding something that looks like a jump rope and a bunch of giant bubbles.
Let me send you one more picture and see if this would have influenced, because this is the most ginormous bubble.
Oh, well, this picture here, I can't tell if this is photoshopped or not. There's a boy. Oh, it's like a V-shaped thing. Oh, I see.
With the string hanging off there. Yeah, that's a much better angle.
Well, the question was, what would I pay? Well, I wouldn't pay more than $8.99 for this.
That is accurate, Dave, because that is a valuable resource to our listeners to know what you would pay for something, because you were lower than this, so maybe that will influence them. It looks like it did at one point drop down below $8, according to Camel, $7.99. So it has
don't forget about that
price.
Camel.
Yeah, I like that.
Good
well,
resource.
We should definitely wrap up this episode of the podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you made it this long, you are teching much better now. Make sure you share it with a friend. And for anyone besides Todd, because you're a special case, if you don't subscribe to the podcast, if you have to go look for it every week, just hit subscribe in the podcast app, whichever one it is, and then it just shows up every week. It makes life so much easier. Todd, that is a battle I have given up on, because you still use your iPod Shuffle. So everyone else, get out there and tech better. Oh, nope, I found a good one.